So before we get started today, I'd like to address a few comments I've gotten on the Metal Meltdown recently. A few people have complained that apparently my videos are too quiet. I don't really know how to address that because I haven't really noticed any of these issues with any recent video. There's nothing wrong with my laptop. There's nothing wrong with my microphone. It's been raised as high up as possible without blocking my body or my face or without blocking anything in the video, really. Um, Everything's running great here. I really just don't know how to address this issue, so I kind of have to assume that whatever issues anyone is having with volume, it's on your end. Turn up the volume, dude. Like, I don't mean to sound dismissive, but again, I'm just not noticing any issues, at least none that I can solve easily on my end. So, for now, to those 3 or 4 people, I'm seriously going to have to just suggest turn up the volume. I don't know. That being said, from here on, if y'all begin to notice legitimate issues with audio, let me know. Because, hey, if 3 or 4 people complain about something, whatever, it's a coincidence. Who cares? Pass it off. But if 100 people complain about something, then clearly there's a pattern. Clearly there's something I'm fucking up, and I don't want to fuck up, you know? I love y'all. You make it possible for me to do this, so I want to put the best possible stuff out there. So, please just keep an eye out, I guess. For now. Or just turn the volume up on your computer. Whatever the fuck works. I don't know. Anyway, that's out of the way. Let's talk about this new Wolves in the Throne Room record. Primordial Arcana is the 7th studio album from American black metal band Wolves in the Throne Room, who, over the course of nearly 2 decades, have dedicated their discography to channeling the energies of, and I quote directly, the Pacific Northwest landscape into musical form. In a fashion not too dissimilar from that of another American black metal band, Panopticon, Wolves in the Throne Room have consistently taken more influence from their own surroundings, from the Pacific Northwest, than they have from, say, Norway or Sweden. And not only is Primordial Arcana not an exception to this rule, but it appears to show Wolves in the Throne Room at their most dedicated to this rule, to this mindset, to this concept of creating black metal, as it was written, recorded, and produced entirely in isolation by themselves. Nobody else was involved in the creation of this record, and they did all of this in a log cabin in the woods of their home state, Washington. On top of that, the album lyrically, conceptually, and aesthetically pulls a lot of influence from folklore, from pagan magic and witchcraft and mythology. It is cloaked in a mysterious, mystical, supernatural aura, complemented not just by roaring second-wave black metal worship, but also by chimes and keyboards and synthesizers and very rustic, warm acoustic guitar, and a lot of cold, atmospheric soundscapes. As a result of all of this, the album is simultaneously very intimate, but also very cinematic. It's very lush, evocative, accessible even, as you find yourself lost and immersed within the waves of Primordial Arcana, but also still very brutal and demanding in classic black metal fashion. You've got Mountain Magic, for instance, which opens the album on an incredibly icy and thunderous note with some raging tremolo riffery and thunderous black metal percussion, contrasted with a lot of synth work, a lot of atmospheric passages. I'm getting a lot of classic flavors from like mid-90s Enslaved and Emperor and even some Agalloch. It's ruinously effective. You can practically feel cold, icy mountain wind flowing through your hair, brushing against your back. Building on that momentum, the following track, Spirit of Lightning, introduces some intentionally monotonous, but in turn, very hypnotic and mesmerizing acoustic guitar. As it drolls on, chimes and synthesizers and electric guitars are introduced. There are huge, oppressive walls of very cold and unforgiving static. As backing vocals and synthesizers are introduced and then emboldened by some more classic black metal brutality, I can't help but get an image in my mind of a literal spirit of lightning, perhaps the god of thunder himself Thor, summoning a storm and standing in its awe and power. It's a very dark and beautiful number, perhaps one of my favorites on the entire record. Similarly, tracks like Underworld Aurora and the album's monumental closing number, Skyfall Passage, are absolutely beautiful. These are perhaps some of the most intricate and well-designed compositions I've heard from Wolves in the Throne Room, and amazingly, they're able to sound so grand, so beautiful, so evocative without compromising any of the evil, the hellfire, the heaviness still expected of black metal. Even in a more straightforward kind of black metal number like Primal Chasm, I find myself still immensely captivated in Primordial Arcana. This track in particular is just filled to the brim with delicious black metal riffery, the kind of stuff you could expect to hear if old school Behemoth and new school Behemoth ever fused together into one ungodly satanic creation. And honestly, the production of this whole thing is unmatched. It sounds absolutely gigantic, larger than life. It is, without question, one of the best sounding black metal records of the year. Now, I can picture a diehard fan arguing that there are some pacing issues, that the album can drag a little bit in the very middle, particularly those yearning for the brutality of something like Black Cascade. I will even concede that some tracks, namely Through Eternal Fields, were perhaps a little fatty and could do with a little bit of trimming, could do with just a little kick in the ass, hurry up a little bit, bud. You're falling behind. Come on, dude. But all things considered, I really enjoyed this album, and I honestly wasn't expecting it because personally I haven't really been huge on the last few Wolves in the Throne Room records. I was literally ready to dismiss this as just another straightforward black metal record, and I suppose to some extent that is what it is, albeit with a bunch of bells and whistles. But I don't think I've heard straightforward black metal executed with this level of grace, beauty, maturity, and honesty in a while. And quite frankly, those bells and whistles, goddamn, they sure do sound fucking marvelous. I would go with a 4 to 5, honestly. I really like this record. I'm very tempted to pick this up on vinyl very shortly, and in turn to continue exploring this world and learning more and more about its twists and turns, learning more and more about the stories attached to these songs, learning more about Wolves in the Throne Room, and perhaps even re-exploring some of those older records that I may not care for as much. If you're brand new to black metal as well, I think this would be a really interesting record to check out, because I think this combines everything that makes the second wave black metal scene so exciting for so many people, and I think it elevates it to a much more interesting level. Like, I can tell you straight up, if I had discovered this before I discovered the likes of, say, Immortal or Dark Throne, I probably would have been a lot more interested in black metal as a teenager. No disrespect to those bands or anything, but, like, this is just so much better produced and executed on almost every level, in my opinion. But don't take my word for it. Please go ahead and listen to the album and wrap yourself in its dark, mystical cloak. 4 to 5, a great fucking record. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.